In today's video, how long does it take for the effects of a caloric deficit to be shown? I want to show you some examples of individuals like myself when I'm trying to lose body fat going from something like this to something like this. I have examples of people that have been in our challenges, people like Dan Devine, who started like this and ended like this. And at every point, we have to figure out understanding if the diet is actually working. I'm going to give you that tool so you can use it on yourself, and I'm going to share some stories with you. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com, and today I want to talk about a question that I got right here on my Instagram direct message. So check out my Instagrams, give me a follow if you want to send me a direct message. Leave your comments below if you'd like me to address your questions. It's what I really love to do. And the question I got today was a really good foundational question, and it goes like this. How long does it take for the results of a caloric deficit to start showing? Currently in a 500 calorie deficit, walking 5 to 6 miles every day, about how long does it take to start seeing results? Now, everyone loves to use this term caloric deficit, and a lot of it's based on math from, say, a calculator, like the free calculator I have at prophysique.com/calculator, which can help you calculate your calories. But what really determines caloric deficit? Ultimately, it's that you are losing body fat. And if you're not losing body fat, I often tell people you're not in a deficit, but yet we get caught up in saying, well, I'm in a deficit, but I'm not losing weight, because of the calculations that we come up with on a calculator, maybe on our watch. And while those can add some value and they can be insightful, as a coach, what I do is a little bit more inclusive in looking at the overall big picture and a little bit more realistic. And with that in mind, if you guys would like to set up a free coaching consultation at no cost, I'll put a link below to do that so we can discuss these topics and how to help you reach your goals, how to put on muscle, lose body fat. But the idea of how do you know if the plan is working? I'm going to go way back to the first time I ever did a fat loss phase with my first coach, a guy by the name of Lane Norton. So when I reached out to Lane about losing body fat, we got started. He gave me a plan. And I remember for the first few weeks, I kept looking at myself thinking nothing is changing. And I got a little frustrated. I said, man, I'm going to the gym. I took the time to learn how to do macros. I was doing my cardio. I kept going to the gym and looking in the mirror, and nothing was changing. But the one thing that I did that was different when I started working with Lane was I checked in. And so check-ins for me were pictures, measurements, and also, information about how my week went. So as that process unfolded, what actually started happening was when I would go to the gym, work out, look at myself in the mirror and not see changes, I would get frustrated. But these other numbers and other visuals started to happen. So I had a tape measure and I would measure a few measurements, one of them being my waist, and I noticed my waist was coming down. And one day I actually looked at the pictures that I was sending Lane, and I noticed a huge difference, a visual change in my back. My lower back, even my middle back and upper back was quite visibly different. I could start to see my spinal erectors, and my waist measurement was changing. And it was then, way back in 2007, that I realized, wow, body fat does not come off in a manner which we want it to come off in. So when you ask me how long should you start to notice changes, if you're truly in a caloric deficit, you'll notice changes within a few days, definitely within a week, and absolutely hands down within 2 weeks. My clients, all the clients of ProPhysique, do weekly check-ins. That weekly check-in is going to allow enough time for the body to make a change. And if you're not seeing a change, there's something else going on. You're either not in a caloric deficit or you've done something else to cause progress to stall. But ultimately, about a week is what I like to see. And for individuals who are not up against the deadline, I'll give as much as 2 weeks, especially if there are some extenuating circumstances. So what is the determination of making progress? It can be very subtle. If you have a lot of body fat, it can be absolutely very, very subtle. So that's typically when you'll see the scale moving more. If you're, say, over 25% body fat, you'll see more scale movement. But when we get closer to that 20% mark, there might be times where the scale does not really fluctuate much, but you see a huge change in measurements and visuals. Now, why is this? Well, I've come to realize that especially for men, as we start to get leaner, as we start to come out of that state of obesity, our hormone profile starts to improve. And what most people don't realize is that you can have all the calculations you want as far as how many calories you're taking in and how many calories you're burning. But when your hormones, most notably for men, testosterone, starts to improve, it starts to change that equation. Meaning testosterone levels go up, okay? And guess what else happens? Your metabolism, the amount of calories you burn throughout the day, is going to increase without really doing anything more. Okay, there's actually some really exciting research out about this. If you guys would be interested, I'll do a video on that research that talked about, people that are sedentary all day versus people that do squats and just take a walk throughout the day, and the differences in their, hormone profile, most notably testosterone. And so this is why we can see some men like, I showed you Dan at the beginning of this video. Dan was, in relatively decent shape for a 50-year-old guy, but he looks absolutely insane at the end. And he was not on any form of testosterone. We talked about it. He's a natural athlete. But what he did was he lost so much body fat that his hormone profile improved. So he was actually able to continue losing body fat throughout the process and got completely shredded. And this is something I notice about myself too. Now, I've been lifting weights for over 30 years. And every time that I've dieted down and gotten lean, I've gone through a process of what I call body recomposition, where you come out of this dieting phase and you try to maintain at a new lower level of body fat with a bit more muscle. And this is what allows me to walk around at, 10, 12% body fat with very little effort. I did just start a cut, more on that later this week. But the idea here is that you should start noticing changes in about 7 days. That's really the culprit. And the one thing you can't do is actually see those changes if you're not taking pictures. Now, for those of you at home that are like, how the hell do I take pictures of my back, Paul? The easiest thing to do is set up your phone on video mode and just go through the motions of turning all the way around, okay? And take your time, and then go into your phone, take that video and screenshot each picture, put it in a folder. You don't have to show it to anybody. But I promise you, if you're in the process of losing body fat, you're gonna want those pictures, okay? Because it's actually invaluable in showing you. Now, I'm probably gonna try to post some pictures in here from like 2007, 2008, the first time I ever started losing body fat. I've been one of those guys, I'm 6'3", 212 pounds this morning. I've always had abs. I had abs in middle school, high school. I just played sports a lot. I was a thinner guy growing up. It wasn't until I was, 240, 250 pounds that I didn't see my abs anymore. But even then, I always felt like I could lean back, find the good light and be like, yeah, I've got abs. But I got fat on my back. My love handles, my waist blew out. And so that's not something that we regularly see. And when I started taking these pictures of my back for my coach, there were times where I was embarrassed. I was like, wow, that is not what I want to look like from behind. And so keeping that love handle, that body fat off has been a huge game changer for me. And I think it's improved my relationship with not only how I feel about myself, but also when I'm trying to help others, explaining that progress is not just about the scale, okay? The goal over time should be to increase your weight while decreasing your body weight, especially if you're new to lifting. But if you have all the muscle mass you want, most men will tell me, Coach, I want to lose 10 to 15 pounds of body fat, but I don't want to be any lighter. We like to be big guys. Listen, I loved walking around at 250 pounds. I just felt like hell. Okay, so for me, there are these happy places. And I think for most of us, if we're trying to lose body fat, we can't just focus on the scale, okay? That's very common among women. And oftentimes it will start to come with the risk of muscle loss. And you're seeing it a lot with the weight loss drugs. People are losing an incredible amount of weight, but they're ending up with damaged metabolisms, much less muscle mass. And then you're kind of stuck in this situation where you're on a medicine that is keeping your appetite low, but you've severely depressed your metabolism and lost muscle. So now if you come off that medicine and you put body fat back on, you're gonna body fat overshoot. So yeah, take a look at what you're doing, but take a look at 3 things: pictures, take measurements, most notably of the waist. I would also do the glutes. I would also do the chest. A lot of men lose body fat through the chest and the upper back. Take a few measurements and check the scale. And just be aware that the scale is going to mostly reflect water. Our bodies are sponges. And if you're losing body fat, yes, it will come off on the scale, but it's also going to be storing more water if you're lifting weights, if you're sore, if you didn't get as much sleep, if you ate more sodium than normal. So sometimes we can get down about the scale not moving, despite the fact that there are all these other signs that progress is happening. And that's what happened to me my first time I ever dieted down. Thank goodness I was taking those pictures from the back, because that got me excited. And guess what happened when I got all the fat off the back? It started coming off everywhere, right? And I started to really love the way I look. So hopefully this helps you. Don't get too caught up in the day-to-day stuff. 1 week, 2 weeks, that should be your time frame to determine if you're seeing progress. And if not, make a change. That's how you know. Make a change. If you have any questions, message me. I put the link below to set up a free consult, and I hope you guys are having a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow.